It's always been challenging for me to read just the beginning of a new life experience. I'm not sure what the problem is, but I also have experienced adversity. But at one point in time, I met Janet, the woman who would eventually become my wife, and I thought that my fate would change. On the other hand, this was a temporary solution. We share a lot of the same values. Before we begin, I would ask you to click the bell symbol and subscribe to our channel so that you don't miss out any of the moving stories we post. I've been employed for a good number of years. I put forth a significant amount of effort, but nothing seemed to work. I was never spared the pain of loss. In addition, there are financial difficulties. I had not yet completed my education when I entered the labor market in the hope of finding employment. I needed to find a way to make ends meet, and I was determined to make something of myself. Despite all the obstacles, I persevered and managed to secure a steady job. Despite all the hardships, I've never given up on my dreams. The state of my finances also played a negative role in the quality of my romantic relationships. I had to be honest with my partners about my financial situation, which made it difficult to maintain a healthy relationship. I tried to find ways to improve my finances, but I was limited by my lack of education and job opportunities. The state of my finances was another factor in my girlfriend's decision to break up with me. In the end, I was successful in getting a job as a barman in a bar, and that's where I first met Janet. That evening, after consuming a significant amount of alcohol, she passed out. There was a man who was attempting to win her over to his side. I quickly stepped in and protected Janet from the man's advances. I was aware that she frequently went out to our backyard and stayed there for some time. In addition to this, I was aware that he was using her to his own advantage. In spite of the fact that I wasn't where she lived, I was still able to escape this man and bring her to where I was. Although I am sure you're thinking I've lost my mind, there is really no other choice. Anyway, I slept on the couch because she was using my bed for the night. When she finally opened her eyes, she yelled at me for having brought to her that place. She came to me to apologize after realizing that I had been of assistance to her. I accepted her apology and asked her why she was in such a situation in the first place. She told me her story about how she had been a victim of domestic abuse. I was in shock. I expressed my sympathy and my feeling sorry for her, and it made me feel bad for her. Then the beginning of our tale began. We started hanging out together and quickly grew very close to one another. I believed that the presence of her in my life had altered the course of my life because everything was going so swimmingly and I had a job that met all of my requirements at the time. It felt like I was in a dream and I was so happy. I had a beautiful companion whom I could share my life with, and I was making enough money to support us both. It seemed like everything was perfect. Therefore, I finally came to the conclusion that I would marry her, propose to her, and we eventually tied the knot. We celebrated our marriage with a wonderful honeymoon, and I felt like I had found true happiness. We settled into our new life together, and it felt like a dream come true. We were both so in love, and life was so good. It was a wonderful way to start off one's life. I was aware that I was unable to grant all of her wishes, but I worked diligently day and night. My feelings for her deepened as the years went by. I wanted to give her everything she desired and deserved. I was determined to make her life as comfortable and happy as possible. I did not want her to ever worry about anything. She had a job at a customer service in call center. The plan was for her to return home in the morning. I would advise her to resign from her position, but she would stand by me regardless. It was something that was greatly valued. We were both working hard to realize our goals and realize our aspirations. She worked diligently and never gave up, and I was always inspired by her perseverance. With her help, we were eventually able to achieve our dreams. I am forever grateful for her unwavering support and love. My trust in her was unwavering at that point. Because I loved her so much, I had no choice but to put my faith in her. I had no other option. The weekends, she went to her friend's house and spent the night. Because we had previously discussed and agreed to put in our long hours at the office until we could save enough money to buy a house and pay off our debt, I did not have any issues with her. She promised to continue working hard and to stay away from distractions. I believed her and I was confident that she would keep her promise. I was sure that one day we would have the house and financial security that we had always dreamed of. Therefore, in a roundabout way, she was assisting me. I never did anything to make her feel uneasy around me. The issue started in earnest when Janet arrived at her house quite early one morning, looking devilish and feeling very exhausted. She didn't tell me about the issues until she was in bed, despite the fact that I already knew she had one. I left for work after cooking breakfast. Because I was so preoccupied with my work for the eternity of that day, I completely forgot about her predestined. When I got back to the house in the evening, she had already cooked dinner for me, and we ate it together. After that, I excused myself and went to use the loo. I came across a container that included my wife's undergarments in it. It's possible that my wife forgot about it or included it inadvertently. I saw there were specks of blood on it even I took it up and examined it more closely. The panty was white, but it had blood streaks on it. I was concerned and wondering how she was doing. My first assumption was that she went through the menstrual cycle. Therefore, I positioned the panty within the boundary zone. I decided to give her a call and find out how she was doing. After that, she responded with a yes, and after that, she asked me why I was asking her, to which I responded that I had found her panty in the lavatory. I was curious as to what had become of her, so I asked. Her reaction was that she did not place her panty in the lavatory where it was supposed to be. I reassured her that there was no need to worry about it. Perhaps she had forgotten. She confirmed that she does in fact had menstruation days. I cautioned her to exercise extreme caution. We both had a good laugh, and I offered to help her buy some new ones. She thanked me and said she would manage. We parted ways with her feeling better about the situation. However, the reality is that I noticed a difference in her behavior that I had never seen before. This was something I had never seen before. I explained to her that the reason she was responding in such a manner was due to the hormonal changes that occur during her period. The other day, as I was searching through my cupboard for a few documents, I came across a bag of pills hidden within my cupboard. It seemed weird to me given that those drugs were relatively novel at the time. I speculated that perhaps she had some reason for not informing me of a certain matter. Due to the fact that I was running late, I did not give the medications my full attention. After 2 days, I finally got to meet my friend Juliana, who worked as a nurse at the hospital. She was a fellow student at my institution. Janet, my wife, was a patient at the time, and she had run into her in the hospital's pathology lab last week. During the course of our discussion, she shared something with me. She believed that because she had a large number of patients to take care of, she was unable to approach her and ask her assistance because she was too busy. When she asked me, I couldn't believe it. I had a sudden memory of a medication that I had discovered in her medicine cabinet. So I told her that she was good to go. Don't be concerned. The only conclusion that made sense to me at the time was that she could have been pregnant. On the other hand, I speculated that she was either concealing herself or that she was simply waiting for me to be surprised by some event in the future. When she told me about that moment, my heart leaped for excitement, since it brought back such fond memories. On the first night, I found myself feeling really excited, and the notion occurred to me that I ought to prevent her from going to work tonight. My intention was to make the evening an unforgettable one for her. Because I love her so much and because I wanted to make her happy, I went shopping and bought a stunning outfit, as well as a bouquet of flowers. After arriving back at our house from the restaurant, we proceeded to have a romantic encounter after dinner. I reasoned that it was the most effective means for me to convey my thoughts and feelings. After that, we both decided to turn in for the night. The following morning, we both got out of bed. When she got out of bed, I noticed 2 bite marks on her neck and my attention was immediately pulled to them. When I questioned her about the origin of those marks, her response was, "What's wrong with you? You were such a crazy person the night before. Don't you remember that?" I concurred with her, but added that I could not remember a time when I was that crazed and had bitten you on the back. When she glanced at me, her eyes were filled with nervousness. I was a man with a good memory, and I was an adult. I was completely unaware that I had bitten her on the back. I persisted with my inquiry, but she never responded to any of my inquiries. When I suddenly announced that I was expecting a child, everyone was very skeptical. She couldn't believe it. "Who told you that I was pregnant?" she asked me. The response I gave was that it wasn't going to appeal to you. My inquiry is, "Why are you keeping this information from me?" She claimed that I did not have a pregnancy. I wanted to know that you were up to while you were there. She mentioned that I had some problems with my blood sugar. I had come to realize that she lied to me on a regular basis. I was of opinion that it was imperative to find out what was going on. To begin, I felt it was necessary for me to investigate the medication that she was on now. I looked through the entire cupboard, but I couldn't locate it anywhere. It's possible that the new dosage of the drug caused the issue. After some time had passed, the notion occurred to me that it would be interesting to learn the reason why she went to the hospital. I decided to get in touch with a friend who worked there because I knew it could be challenging for me to obtain the facts owing to patient confidentiality. After waiting for a day, she eventually gave me a call and suggested that we get together for dinner at a local restaurant. I persisted in inquiring about her most recent finding. We agreed to meet at a specific location, and she told me she would provide further information when we got there. She ultimately revealed to me that she had been given a diagnosis of herpes simplex virus, either because she was becoming nervous or because she was concealing something. When I questioned her about what that meant, she revealed that she herself was infected with it. When she mentioned that she had been infected with sexually transmitted illness, my head was completely blown. When she responded that her details led to this, my mind was blown to say the least. I was attempting to determine whether or not she was being serious. A hard copy of the report was provided by me to her at the time. My assumption was that she would not deceive me in that manner ever again. When I got back to my house, I already had faith in her. She was at her house. I refrained from speaking to her in a way at all. I was lying in bed, perplexed at what was taking place. She moved closer to me and made an attempt to give me a kiss on the back of my neck. I warned her to cease her actions. She continued to repeat the same action over and over again. I yelled at her to back off while simultaneously slamming the report in her face. After reviewing the records and describing the situation to me, she remarked, "Well, I just don't understand what's going on. It was on the night that she went to the pub with a friend where she drank, and that she was taken advantage of by a man who took advantage of the fact that she was drinking." She related this story. She feels bad about it and has a guilty conscience about it. She admitted her guilt during the service at the local church. Her explanation was that she believed she would be able to tell me anything at any point in my life, but she was terrified of hurting my feelings. My answer was something along the lines of, "How the hell am I going to believe you?" She wept and pleaded with me to forgive her wrongdoing. I was also in love with her, so I made the decision that I would not leave her. Nevertheless, I reasoned that I should torment her on a daily basis so that she would not have to go through any more pain. She exploited my love and trust, in spite of the fact that the circumstances she was in were always challenging. I made the decision to act in a manner that would be harmful to her. I disregarded at her attempts to approach me and cautioned her not to touch me, despite the fact that she made multiple of those attempts. After a week had passed, my bride had finally made it to my house. It was my second wife who walked through the door when I opened it. However, she wasn't at her house. Janet couldn't believe her eyes and finally laid eyes on me. She inquired as to her identity. I let her know that she was married to me. I was able to make her see the consequences of her actions and the drama she had produced. As a result, she did not speak up. She vowed that she would never walk away from me. It had been agreed upon that she would depart after my second marriage, yet she was still living here after that event. While Janet was by alone in the other room, my wife and I were in the first room. Although being married was not something I wanted to do, I was aware that there was no way we could ever have a relationship again. Since I did not want to be apart from her, I reasoned that if I wanted her to leave me, I should engage in behaviors that would cause her to do so. Because of this, when I first started living with my new wife, one of the ways I would try to get closer to her was by engaging in intimate activities that also involved making a lot of loud noises. And that was the most effective torture she had. She yelled at times in an attempt to put an end to it. After 2 weeks had passed, she eventually wept as she approached me and requested for a divorce. She came clean and admitted that she could not take it any longer. It had reached the point where it was necessary for me to divorce her.